Hey there. If you're anything like myself and every other human being on the planet, you might have wondered from time to time how you stop thinking so much. How do we end the constant cycle of thought and alleviate the type of pressure and the chaos that we experience within the mind? I am Jordan. I'm a dissolve therapist, and we specialize in training the body, the mind, and the awareness itself to experience deep release and profound peace, very much at will. This is something that to begin to practice yoga or martial arts or really any serious skill, it's extremely helpful to be able to have a certain amount of focus or concentration. And a lot of people approach this in a way that's not sustainable. If you were trying to meditate, say, or you're trying to focus on something, and yes, this very much applies to this sort of ADHD crowd, the people who can't seem to stop thinking, they can't seem to rest their attention on something for long enough to be able to become absorbed into it unless it's something extremely stimulating and distracting in and of itself. A lot of people go about this in an unsustainable way. We try to stop thinking, for one, doesn't work. We try to push away the thoughts. We try to just simply steer our mind away from what we don't want to what we do want, again and again and again. And this creates sort of a whack-a-mole game, or this sort of swinging pendulum of this thought to that thought. And maybe there's this brief glimpse of focus and awareness that we might sweep across or bump into from time to time. But in order to grow that capacity and absorb into this state of awareness that really nourishes the mind and transforms the quality of our attention and our awareness, something that really cultivates and refines this level of our consciousness that perceives and knows and can step back from the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, the experiences that it gets really so entwined in, and become clear, become settled, become stable. We want to know how to release, because the habit of the mind is to cling and hold and contract to. There's like this magnetic pull. The attention centers in around whatever comes up in our experience. It's like these blinders get put on. There's this tunnel vision, so to speak. And some people might have more or less of a problem with being too focused on whatever comes up versus being too distracted and being pulled this way and that way. But either way, it's not quite what we're doing in the beginning, it's how we do it. It's not so much that there is something occurring, a thought occurring in the mind, some sort of emotion we're dealing with, some sort of sensation in the body, some sort of experience that's happening in our life, but it's the quality of our response to it, right? So the habit of the mind is to hold, to cling, to contract. This contraction happens in the awareness. The awareness itself is always being pushed and pulled this way and that way. A thought comes up, the awareness focuses in, our attention goes to something, and then we have usually an unconscious intention, right? There's a reaction, there's a response that we sort of have in our being towards that thought, that emotion, that feeling, and we're either going to be like running away from it or fighting back against it generally. And if it's something that we enjoy, we might become absorbed into it for a while. And that might be nice. But if we are not able to recognize this habit of contraction, this habit of clinging and craving, and this unconscious intention, this reactionary response in the unconscious mind, in the way that our nervous system responds, and we don't train that and reshape it, then we'll always have the problem of being in the midst of rest or relaxation, and being in the midst of enjoying enjoying time with friends or family, or enjoying time in nature, and all of a sudden this barrage of thoughts, the cycle of thoughts comes back. And with it, all of the emotions, the feelings, the sensations that come with that seed of thought, that thought form, or that series of thought forms, that train of thought being nourished by our awareness and being driven by that unconscious intention, that reaction. So the mind will contract around that thought as it arises, and it basically arises because we have previously given it attention. That unconscious intention has pushed or pulled our awareness towards that thought form, and we have nourished it, we've given it life. Right? This is how the mind works. Our sense of self identifies with experiences, thoughts, emotions that arise, and we say, I am thinking this, I am feeling this, and we attach to it, we become entwined with it, right? This idea of attachment, that's what this is. There are these acquired layers of baggage in the mind, the heart, the body that we acquire, thoughts within the mind, which literally the center of our awareness is this area of the head, this upper region here. The area we usually experience and carry emotions is somewhere in the heart, the center of our body. And then, there's this area of physical vitality and physical experience, which is rooted in the lower body. Our sensation, our direct, tangible, physical experience. And in order to really get to the root of this, and not just at the level of the mind, so, okay, I'm going to think positive. I'm going to just not focus on that, and I'm going to focus on this. Okay, I'm going to try to feel better. I'm going to go chase these experiences, or I'm going to try to find ways, find people, find distractions, find things to make me feel better. Or, okay, I'm just gonna push all that away, and I'm just gonna work out. I'm just gonna work. I'm just gonna constantly be doing something, right? So that I can't think, I can't feel, right? If I'm absorbed in that activity. But the issue with approaching it in this way is that we're pushing all that stuff down into the darkness, the background. We are taking that unconscious intention and we're repressing it, right? We're pushing it away. We're pushing it back into the dark corners of our mind, where when we do finally go to rest or be at ease or have a good time, enjoy our life, then all of those things come back full force, right? And maybe even worse than they were before. The more that we repress, the more layers accumulate around the core of our being, who we really are, and how we would really feel if we were completely able to just be at ease, just purely being, right? Everybody can imagine how peaceful that would be, to be able to just be, to just rest in pure being, right? But it's like all this stuff comes back and disturbs our peace, right? So this skill of becoming aware is the first skill. And to do that, to listen inwards, we need to release. We need to be able to let go of that contraction. That contraction can be made tangible. It can be made obvious through training. We can train the body to release. Usually when people exercise the body, We are literally exercising and moving. We're usually functioning in our lives in the body at the physical level through contraction, right? So when we work our bicep and we work out, it's usually this contraction of the muscle that we're utilizing. We're isolating and contracting. So this separates the body into all of these different contractions, right? So different types of fascial training the fascia through elastication, through extension, through opening the body is extremely helpful. There are some cool systems out there that do this, but again, they might, as far as I've seen, as far as I've experienced, they can often also isolate the layer of the body from the sort of emotional and mental experience unconsciously in the way that they train, which again, it's better than nothing. But learning how to open the body and how to relax or release under pressure, learning how to create connection through extension, and learning how to strengthen the body in an unorthodox way, you might say, a sort of counterintuitive way, which can be done through things like dissolve yoga, which we train, or through internal martial arts. Some people teach yoga more or less in this way. It's kind of rare these days because it's done through a lot of strength and like pushing and striving. So we want to recognize that the whole spectrum of our being mirrors the other aspects of our body. Our mind and body reflect one another. The breath, the quality of our breath reflects the mind and body. So when we become stressed, right, the body becomes tense, the breath rises up, the mind tightens, our mental space kind of closes in on itself, and we become full of chaos, right? There's a lot of mental activity, mental movement that is closed in within this contracted space, this lack of space, really. And so with that lack of space comes that chaos, comes that lack of clarity, that ungroundedness, that lack of stability within our being, that lack of groundedness and stillness comes from this contraction and the activity, which is bound up within the nervous system, bound up within the mind. And we feel trapped. We feel a lack of freedom. We feel a lack of an ability to breathe freely, to move, to adapt, to rest, right? So the ability to become aware, to begin to listen, to not try to force away thoughts, to not try to force change to occur, but to really allow the mind to begin to rest. There's this Taoist saying, allowing the muddy waters to settle. As long as we're trying to make the muddy water, you can't force all the mud back down to the bottom in the water. You can't make the waves in the water still. You yourself are in the water, moving. If there is that unconscious intention, that unconscious activity, when we're constantly contracting and grabbing and clinging within our awareness, then the nervous system will always be contracting and cringing within. The body will always become tight and separated and contracted, and therefore stagnant in certain ways and full of uncomfortable sensation, right? So it's the same in the mind. The mind reflects the body. Our breath will be tight and constricted. Our mind will be uneasy. The body will be uncomfortable. And this is the way we tend to habitually move through our lives. But if we begin to train the body and the mind, again, when we train the body to release, if we practice something like the dissolve therapy training we do, like a lot of Tai Chi is based on this, a really good quality fascial work, yoga. When we begin to learn how to open the body, and there are a process in my free Skool training, for instance, there's a process of opening the body, of literally spreading the bones apart from each other, elasticizing the tissues, instead of the body recognizing this as strength, that every part of the body has to be like tight and hard. We can actually soften and open and create a different type of tension, this elastic, conductive, open and spacious, really connective internal strength, which then feeds back into the mind because we are doing so by releasing excess tension. The awareness is being trained. The reticular activating system, you could say, is being trained to perceive release. So every little bit of tension, every bit of contraction, this unnecessary contraction in the body, and I'm doing this with the arm because it's like, how do you hold up your arm with no tension, right? Or with as little tension as possible, with no contraction, right? We have to be listening and releasing, allowing this bone to not be bound into the shoulder, but to open and release the shoulder, for space to be created in this joint, for space to be created in the elbow, for space to be created in the hand. And then it's kind of like a suspension bridge, or like a spider web. The more I release and I saturate my awareness within, it's like a fluid filling the body. I'm emptying the mind, allowing the mind to become yin, receptive. I'm letting the mind rest within the body. It's not trying to control. It's not trying to govern and manipulate. It is soft, receptive, listening, releasing. It is saturating into this space and filling the whole body. It's saturating into the flesh, into the bone, allowing the nerves to unwind and open and extend. Right? And so the mind also does this. It opens, becomes spacious, becomes more vast, open. There's more space between every thought. There's more of this sense of softening and stepping back and just observing, just knowing clearly, not interfering, allowing that muddy water to still so that it becomes clear and we can clearly recognize sensation, the stirring of any particular emotional reaction, the very seed of a thought beginning to arise, and we can attend to it and feed that thought. We can focus on that emotion and let it grow and let it amplify and take over our awareness, or we can soften and let them dissolve, not push them away, not fight back against them, because that is, again, giving them attention and wiring our body and our mind to have them continually come back. That emotional loop, that mental loop, that those old stories we hold on to, those victim narratives, all of those things, they are based on us unconsciously nourishing those patterns and wiring ourselves to continually experiencing them, and we're wiring the body to continually carry that weight. So if we learn the skill of listening, when we listen, we have to become empty. We become receptive, right? When you're listening to someone speak, you're not thinking of what you're going to say next. You're becoming open, empty. You're emptying your cup, allowing it to be filled. So in this way, we are emptying the mind, not to become nihilistic or ignorant or avoidant. We're not running away. We're not fighting back. We are extremely aware. We are attentive. We are noticing. We are listening with a growing sense of stability and clarity. Therefore, we develop a sense of penetrating insight, not through forcing our focus and concentration to hold tightly to one thing. This is a common misconception in meditation. We might want to have an object of meditation, but it's generally a good idea to move from external objects to internal objects. Use the breath. The mind is kind of weird to use at first because it's so intangible, but use the body. Have a body-based practice where you experience release, so that the awareness, the attention can be trained to perceive release, to nourish and magnify that process of release. And if it is brought into the level of the mind, we want to notice through this practice that the quality of the mind is becoming more spacious, more open, more pleasurable, more enjoyable. And that naturally what will happen is that a quality of appreciative joy, because it feels good instead of being contracted and tight and doesn't feel good, right? When we release, it is enjoyable. When we are more spacious, more adaptive, more free, when we can breathe, when we can rest our mind, when we can rest our bodies and be comfortable in our own body and our own being, when we can rest right here and just be, it feels good. And we can have this sense of appreciative joy. And that's one of those qualities that supports a meditative mindset. Appreciative joy, a sense of warmth or loving kindness, we might say. In Buddhism, metta, right? Loving kindness. And this isn't something like imagine sending love to all the people. We don't want to imagine these things. We don't want to contrive these things. We want to allow, from this quality of listening, this quality of release, we want to allow this organization to occur. There's this reorganization, a reorientation of the mind from thought form to awareness, attention, from contraction in the body to release. And as we become more open, more spacious, the heart just becomes more buoyant, more light. As these layers of our contraction and our baggage start to fall away, melt away, we perceive directly that they, as the reactions towards them arise, that it's uncomfortable, it's contraction, it's unhealthy. We don't need to hold on so much. We can soften, we can tangibly, enjoyably let go while remaining aware of that entire process, not running away, not fighting back. Aware, listening, awareness encompassing the entirety of our experience, mind, heart, body. By doing so, we will nourish this process of release and allow these layers to fall away, exposing, revealing who and what we really are. And who and what we really are is, if you want to say the soul, the spirit, something divine, this, whatever it is, we don't really need words for it at that point. To experience it directly is the point, is the beautiful thing. And what it feels like, what the experience is like, right, is a deep, immersive, loving warmth, a peace that is beyond comprehension. Bliss, if we really keep going and absorb into that, if we're not just, it's great to be absorbed into the first few layers and the mind calms down, when the heart becomes still and calm and clear, and more and more layers fall away. And then as the body transforms over time through practice, we begin to be able to just sit and be at ease, and the body doesn't collapse when we start to rest the mind, because the mind doesn't get kicked out. The awareness can settle in and actually fill the body. There's this direct connection, this plugging in to life, and life, the energy of life, that physical vitality, that chi, that prana, organizes and fills the body. It fills our whole being. So we become radiant and full, and we can rest in that. The mind becomes yin, receptive. The body becomes yang, becomes full, becomes radiant. This harmony of yin and yang through release is the joining of heaven and earth, right? This is the bridge. This is the connection. This is the stable through line that we rest in to gain access to more and more refined layers of awareness. And it purifies our consciousness, and it starts to allow us to connect with something higher, something deeper, something profound, which is who and what we really are. And when we do this, it is so enjoyable. It is so good. It is so pleasurable that we can surrender to it. Right? There are many different paths, many different traditions, many, different ways to approach the training of the body, the heart, the mind, to reshape us and reorient us in this way. But there is really only one meditation. There are meditative practices that reshape your being. When you do the best to reshape your life in a way that supports this as best as you can. And it's never perfect, so you don't beat yourself up about what you can't change. But everything that you can do, you shift, you tweak, you change, you release into, you harmonize with, you soften in relation to. And you continually let the layers of what is not constant, what is not true, what is not eternal, fall away. And, refine what is good, what is useful, what is practical, what is, helping steer you back onto the path. And you continue to learn to listen and release and surrender. And the thoughts will be gone long before you approach this. But the more that whatever arises, you just release and harmonize with, you will be able to accept whatever has occurred in your past, whatever your thoughts about the future are, whatever is happening now. And when you are fully aware, when you can listen, you can release, and you can accept, then there is this deep integration, right? Whatever was in resistance to you before begins to harmonize, begins to integrate. And that resistance falls away, and there's this sense of wholeness, right? And so you begin to perceive more and more clearly what is true, what is lasting. And if you can absorb and surrender into that, that is the way. That is how you move towards states of meditation. That is how you become totally absorbed in a direct connection with life. That is how you allow the mind to become still, the heart to become calm, warm, open, full of life and love, and how you begin to allow the body, because the body will be affected by this as well. It's a misconception in many modern perceptions of meditation, spiritual work, that you're leaving the body behind some way. No, you are allowing the body to be transformed until you actually begin to refine and transcend the body. The body becomes more of an energetic field, you might say. The emotions all become so harmonious and refined that the heart is just this clear, vast, open space full of joy. Whenever you rest the mind in this space where you exist, there is this deep enjoyment, this radiant fullness, right? And this clear, spacious, vast, knowing quality. The mind is not just a jumble of thoughts, it is this open, vast space where you are aware of whatever arises. And if you are totally absorbed in this ever-refining awareness and consciousness, then less and less baggage is there to arise. That unconscious intention has begun to melt away and unravel itself, and there's just this pure awareness, and it is beautiful. So if this seems interesting to you, if it seems like something that you want to have a bit of a clear way to train in the body and to be able to refine your senses, refine the quality of your mind, if you want to begin to experience this instant release of stress and thought and emotion and become clear, become more stable, have a sense of equanimity and a deep inner strength and resilience, I have a free Skool. I'll set the link down below. And I also have a website. If you want to get in touch with some one-on-one work, I have a 3-session deal right now. And if you do some of this training, you're oriented to these principles, and you dive into some of the training, and then you develop a way to practice it in your life, in 3 or 4 sessions, usually some people have their life just completely altered, and it changes you for the better. It's a beautiful way to develop a meditation practice. You can integrate it with your yoga. You can develop a profound ability to access the internal principles of things like Tai Chi or internal arts, or you can just make your life more beautiful at work, with your family, no matter what you do. You can apply this in daily life. You can do this while you're washing the dishes. You can do this just noticing your habits of, oh, I got stressed, I got frustrated, I got set off in some way, and I know how to come back now. If I want to be able to have a meditation practice, I know a clear way to do that without imagination, without fluff, without new age wackiness, and without overstimulating breathwork practices and all that stuff that's out there that maybe has some benefits, maybe not. But if you want a clear approach to it, get in touch. We could do some work together. You can explore my free Skool group, and I hope that you enjoyed this and got some value out of it, and hope to see you over on our group, our community that's just begun, but it's beginning to grow. And we do some classes there that we've set up soon, and there's a free course or two. Have fun with it. All right. Enjoy. Take care.